Okay, just in the garage today. I just got a Himalayan front wheel that had a puncture. I did do a video earlier repairing it, showing you how to repair a tyre. And I had my 3-year-old toddler to help me, but kind of got a bit chaotic, so I'm just going to do it again. So it's had a puncture, and this is for people who are maybe a little bit anxious about what to do when to change a puncture, or what to do if they get a puncture at the side of the road. So I'm just going to show you the way I do it, what tools I use. I'm not saying it's the right way, it's just saying it's the way I do it. I'm not a professional, I've seen people do it better than me and quicker than me. So always bear in mind there's always difference of opinion, there's always different thoughts on which tyre levers to use, etc. So this is just my version. I'm not saying it's the right way, it's just the way I do it. In terms of the anxiety which people were talking about, there's just a few that suggest just a few things to talk about quickly. So for people who are running tube tyres, which is what you get on an adventure bike, typically like the CRF or the Himalayan, obviously if you get a tube, certainly on the Himalayan it's not too bad because you've got a centre stand to get the wheel out. If you're on a CRF it's problematic. So you can get what's called slime. You get this from Wilco's or online, anywhere really. We'll just check it's recording. Yeah. You can get it anywhere, it's about a tenner. And one of these will do two tyres generally. You just take the valve off, it's got a valve key with it somewhere. Take the valve out and then just pump this into it. And what that does is just permanently rotate in the rim. You don't know it's there. And then if it does detect a puncture, it sort of finds the hole, seals it, and hopefully it does that before you even notice there's any pressure loss or any puncture. So it's a really good preventative, this. Obviously if you tear the inner tube, it's not going to do anything for that. But obviously if you get a thorn in it or something, it should seal it. So that's a really good preventative. Something I generally take with me is just this emergency puncture repair kit, or repair foam. Not everyone recommends it. You see some people on forums saying it don't work. Well, in my experience, about 9 out of 10 times it does work. I use it with the CT110, certainly if it's later in the day, or the A2 bikes, and we're coming back. And if somebody gets a puncture, if I get a puncture, rather than go to all this faff, which can take a good long time to do it properly with a new tube, just put that on the valve, turn it in, and it squirts the foam into the tube. And also compressed air, so it immediately seals and reinflates your tyre. So it's a really quick fix. And again, they're about a tenner from Wilco's or online. You know, plenty of options online to get those. So some people would say don't get these, but I say 9 out of 10 times it works. That's my experience anyway. If I was running a tubeless wheel like on the GS310 or the KTM 390 or I'm just looking at the Motor Marine X-Cape, or if you've got a GS1200, any of those bikes, I wouldn't bother probably with this or this. I just always carry a tubeless repair kit, which is a really easy fix. Just put a plug in and inflate it. I typically tend to just carry a bike pump, just because it's a very reliable piece of equipment. Yes, you can get ones that connect to batteries, but you know, it's something to go wrong, whereas that generally will always work. Good bit of exercise as well. So I'm just going to show you a quick tyre change. So this tube actually has been fixed, but I'm going to break the bead. I'm going to get the tube out and then put it back in, put it back on, show you what I do. If anybody's doing the Grand Challenge, why don't we set a system whereby, or a point system whereby I'll set a time for how long it takes me to do it. And if you beat that doing it yourself on your own bike, then you get a point for every second that you're quicker. How's about that? Bit of a challenge for somebody, speed challenge. Okay, so all right, start the clock now, whatever it's on. So I'm going to lay it flat. I'm not going to rush it, because the worst thing you can do is rush a tyre change, because that's how you nip the tube. You know, that's the biggest thing people find, nip a tube. It's so easy to do, certainly if you're rushing it, certainly if you're nervous, you know, you get a bit greedy and you take too bigger bites with the levers, and then you just puncture or nip your tube. Tyre levers I'm using, these are the best two I've got. They're quite a generic style shape. I don't know if you can see those. I'll try and put a link to them, but I just got them from our local bike shop. They're a RFX lever, and I just carry a third, which is another generic type one. I like the long handled ones. I know you can get shorter ones and people favour those, but you know, for me, I can put them in. That's my Posty Bike toolkit. They fit in there nicely. No problem at all. So yeah, there's lots of options when it comes to tyre levers. But I certainly like those because it's got that scoop there. I don't know if you can see that. It's got that scoop which seems to protect the tube from getting nipped quite so much. So what I'm going to do, the tie's flat. I'm going to put the valve away from me. So I'm looking now at the valve. The valve is there. I'm going to put my knees here to squidge that side of the tyre into the rim. And what that does is create a bit of slack up here, which means that it's easier to get off. Now these are a Continental TKC80, which have got quite a relatively soft sidewall, so they're not actually too difficult to get on and off. If you were doing a Himalayan or a Kenda, you know, a Kenda big block or Himalayan K60 or a Mitas E09, E07, they're incredibly stiff sidewalls, and it can be a big effort just to break the bead. I've seen somebody, it was at Sweetland, they got a Tenere 660 with an E07 fitted, and he got a puncture, and Rob, the chief sort of bush mechanic there, he had a real job just getting the bead broken on it. He got the side stand of a KTM 990 pushed on there, and it took two guys leveraging it on the side stand and on the bike to finally break that sidewall. So what I would say when it comes to tyre choices, yes, you can get some really good long lasting tyres which are good value, like the Mitas, like the Himalayan, like the Kendas, which are great, and if you're good at using them and getting them on and off, fine. But they're very stiff and very difficult to get on and off, and that's good until it goes wrong. And then when it goes wrong and you're in the field, out in the bush, and you can't get the tyre on, then you've got problems. And there's a bigger chance of pinching the tube. So yes, the Continental TKC80s or something like this, the Anlas Caparexes or the Aniki Wilds, they don't last as long and they're more expensive, but you stand a chance of getting them off. Depends how experienced you are, you know. So I'm going to push my knees in, I'm going to push that so it pushes this side of the tyre right into the rim, into the well, and it loosens, it slackens it off there a bit. And then you start at the valve and finish at the valve. So the valve's there, I'm going to put a lever in just to the left of it, put one lever in. I'm going to get the second one. What's that? I'm going to put it in an inch and a half along. And we're going to start leveraging with the right and then with the left. And I'm actually going to use 3. You could do it with 2 if you only had 2. You'd make do. Gently bring it pride. It's all about gently. Everything is gentle. And you might just need to give a bit of slack on those 2 levers that are already in to allow you to get that third in. As it goes. Pops up quite easy actually. As I say, the TKC80s are a good easy tyre to get off. Spin it around again, compress there. But once you get to this stage, sort of happy days. You leverage that around. Obviously if the tyre's warm it helps. So if you've been riding and it's punctured, there's a good chance there's some good residual heat in the tyre to make it more supple. If the bike's been stationary overnight outside and it's very cold, then you've got some bigger troubles ahead. Okay, so I'm going to take this tube out, pretend we put a new one in. I'm going to feed this out. Obviously, and I've made the mistake, I've gone to change a tyre, put the new tube in and then forgot to run my hand around the inside of the tyre, and then you punctured the new tube. Yeah, not good. So obviously you'd run it round, find it, pull it out, pliers or whatever. You might put a new tube in, you might get patches for it. I've got to be honest with the CT 110s with the price of them, the tubes, I just put a new tube in. It's not almost worth the hassle. And in terms of a litigation point of view, for me running tours with bikes and providing the bikes, a new tyre, a new inner tube is better than putting a patch, because if that patch fails, it comes back on me. If obviously it's your own bike, don't matter. Same with the tube, the plug kits on the tubeless. If it was my bike, I put a plug in and ride it, took tyre wear out, but from a liability point of view, I have to put new tyres on or get it plugged properly. That's a wheel. The side of the road, it's raining, you're in a rush. Try not to panic. Wondering why you didn't get a tubeless wheel conversion. I hope the chap comments on this video, but he's messaged me a few times with a link to a DIY tubeless conversions method. Which I must admit, when I first saw it, I thought, God, that doesn't look like it'll work. But the more I looked into it, the more it looks like it does work. And what you simply do, some people might know it, you take an inner tube, you cut it all the way around the outside, you put the valve through, and then you flap over the inner tube over the sides like that. You put on the tyre, is that right? And then it creates a sealed chamber between the inner tube on the inside of the rim and the tyre. And then you trim it along here, and you've got a tubeless conversion for the price of an inner tube. He swears by it, and from what I gather, it's effective. Obviously, the people who are charging £1,000 for a tubeless system maybe don't want you to know about it, but it looks like it works. I'm not trying it myself. Hopefully the guy will comment and he will be able to tell me, or send a link. So I'm going to put that in. Obviously got a bit of air in that, a bit of air to give it form, to form the shape of a tyre. Make sure that's all in. Put your locking nut on your valve. I had one somewhere. Wait a second. Okay. And in terms of lubricant to help get the tyre on, people talk about all sorts of things. You know, Ferro liquid, although that's got salt in it, so probably best avoided. Any kind of liquid to soften or lubricate, reduce friction on the tube, weeing on it even if you're desperate. I use, certainly when I'm at home, I just use baby powder. I find it less messy and just as effective as a liquid lubricant. Just give it a sprinkle around, and that just stops the rubber dragging, reduces the chance of a pinch. Now we all still pinch tubes. I mean, I'd be amazed. I'm sure professionals don't pinch tubes, but for us amateurs, I'm sure we all still pinch tubes. It's very frustrating when it happens. So I've got the valve here, and I'm going to start by trying to hand lever that on, just push it on really, and then follow it with my knee. I'm just getting as much of this tyre on as I can without having to resort to levers. If it's a really stiff sidewall, you probably won't get any of it on this method. But the more of it you can get on this way, the less you've got to rely on levers and less chance you've got to nip in. So this one's pretty good. I mean, this is a great advert actually for a Continental TKC80, because I've got the rims here and I'm round to there just by hand. Okay, we're done. I'm going to push here with my knee again to make this softer by pushing that into the rim, into the well of the rim. Good, take that lever edge. And you might want to use rim protectors or something. These rims have already been quite chewed up badly, so I'm not too precious, but if you were precious, you can either get the plastic rim protectors that you can slide around, or I just use cut up an inner tube and then just put them in, lay them over the edge, lever over and then pull them out. It's a cost effective, cheap way of doing it, and it seems to work. Right, so I put my lever in, pushed it over. When I've got it vertical, put the second one in, 1.5 inches up from it. I lever that one in. Push them both all the way over. And I leave that one back just to let me get that one out. And I've just released tension on that. Put that one in again, another 1.5 inches. I go with that one, I go with the right hand, and then go with the left. Hold them both up, pull that one out. Come back with the right, push in with the left. That's it. Hold that there, I've got one in there. Just going to spin that around a little bit. Again, I've got the valve here, so I've got probably a foot left. So I'm going to take very small bites now, very small bites, 1 inch maximum. Leave it right, left. Right one out, come back with the left. Oh, now it's right. And then in that one. So you're taking very gentle nibbles. Very gentle, because it's always at the end when you nip it. Always at the end. And actually, there we go. She's on. So not a difficult job actually. With the right tyre, a good choice of tyre, right levers, bit of baby powder, it's actually not too bad a job. You know, would you rather do that at 4 o'clock in the evening as it's starting to get dark, or would you rather whack in some tyre weld? I'd probably do the tyre weld. You know, depending on your bike, as I said before, whether you've got a centre stand or not, whether you're tired, fatigued, whether it's wet, whether you've got good surroundings to do a change, it forces you to make a choice. You know, if it's nice and warm, you've got all the time in the world, do a proper job. If you're stressed and you rush for time, just whack in some tyre weld and hope for the best. I say, I won't use this on a tubeless rim. I just use the instant plugs for them. So that's it. Don't know how long that took me, but what, 5, 6, 7 minutes? And obviously didn't have the issue of breaking the bead. Everything went to plan. I haven't put air in it, but I'm going to hopefully assume I've not nicked the tube. And away we go. Put the wheel back on. That's it. So I think the only way to really beat, you know, tyre or puncture anxiety is know how to do that and feel comfortable doing it. Trying to buying the tools and not practicing, it's kind of no good. The difficulty is, how often can you practice? How easy is it to practice? Are you going to do what I've done now? Just took the wheel out to do this, to do a video. You're not going to do that. You're probably, like most people, going to wait until you actually need to do it to then do it, which is when you're out of practice and you know, you might be likely to nip a tube. So don't beat yourself up if you don't want to do this or don't feel comfortable doing this, because it's like anything. If you don't do it very often, you forget how to do it, and it's not very easy. That's why some instant fixes like these are a good way to go. I certainly wouldn't try and rely on your breakdown cover, because they take so long to come out, and then they won't fix the tyre. They'll just take you somewhere, either to home or to a bike shop to get it fixed. So that can be your trip ruined. I think it's a big advert for tubeless tyres, to be honest. Bikes with tubeless tyres. I see they put the price up on that new Transalp, £9,500. It's coming in today. Again, tube tyres on a 21-inch front wheel bike. I think it's an 18 rear with no centre stand as standard. What are you going to do? You know, how impractical is that for the average person who gets a puncture? Why they haven't made that tubeless? Cost mainly, because it costs more to manufacture a rim that's tubeless than it is tube. Having said that, my Motor Marine X-Cape, which is £7,500, has got tubeless tyres, tubeless spoke tyres, so it can be done. It's just that the big manufacturers save money by not doing it, which leaves the customer, if he gets a puncture on his first ride out on his Transalp, absolutely stuffed, unless he's got a can of that, which he could try out for the best. But if he has to do this, if he gets a tear in his tyre and he's got no centre stand, you really are buggered. So it's a bit of a shame from the manufacturers, really. I don't think they really think about the problems that riders might have out in the field on their bikes. They probably think about it, but don't care too much. So that's it. Cheers, guys. Thank you, Arthur. Right, let's see how this goes. Right, you stand there. This is a camera.